So I was fine all day. I went to the spa and then I came back and well, I had 2 hot chocolates and a coffee, and for some reason I just was so shattered when I came back. But I'm feeling better now. But on other news, the tap's off. Yay! I had a package from 2 doors down. They weren't in, so it came to my house instead, and they came to collect it. And I asked them if they could take it off, and that thing did work after all. Just needed to be a bit stronger. I think the guy that tried it 2 days ago, he had an accident on a bike and had a sprained shoulder or something, and he had a hip replacement. So there was 2 reasons why he might have not been. But I guess this is the reason why guys should be plumbers and not women, because it's. I was hoping that I could keep the tap because it's kind of a new tap. Like it's not like a bit dirty, but it just needs a clean really. But it's actually a bit that's actually broken. If you see, so that one of them's kind of fixed. That one's fixed, and that one's just like chopped off. So the bit that's missing is actually inside there, and he said that I'll never get it out, so I need to get a new tap. But it's fine. I needed to see the tap to see if it was actually broken or if I could just replace the cord, and I have to get a new tap. But it's only £30, so it's not that much. But yes, I have already bought the metal one. It's only £7. There's a lot of people waste a lot more than £7. What else have I? My sister showed me some files of the amount of paperwork that social services do. You know, I feel like humans are stupid, and part of their process of thinking is that if there's paperwork and something goes wrong, if we show the paperwork, we can kind of make ourselves look less guilty. But I think in reality, 2 massive boxes for one child who's been in foster care for a year and a half, huge amounts of paperwork. I don't know what I would like to see what's actually on it. You know, is this just a form that you kind of put in because sometimes they have forms where they have like big columns, so they have a question and then big column, question, big column, and then you just put out like 1 or 2 sentences in each, in which case, you know, you could have like 3 sentences on each page, but because they're columned out, I don't know how the wording is, or you know, is that what the paperwork is? That's what I would love to know. Is the paperwork just basically wasting paper? Is the paperwork about wasting paper, or are the paperworks just full of literal long essays all about the details on what happened in this week's session and this week's session and this week's session? I mean, I don't know how many pages there are, but there's got to be thousands of pages in that book, and I feel like it's just an example of taxpayers' wasted money. You know, you're paying these people to protect the child, and what are they doing? They're spending all their time on paperwork. You do realise that babies don't read paperwork. I don't read paperwork. Sophie doesn't read paperwork. Okay, if you've got parents that do read paperwork and are organised, well, they probably wouldn't have their children taken away from them in the first place. If you're taking a child away from someone, it's probably because they've got a dysfunction they're either dyslexic and don't read, or they have some sort of inability to care about paperwork or the details or the finer things. And so having mountains and mountains of paperwork for a child that just needs food and water and to be looked after, I just think they're trying to cover their backs by making themselves say, oh well, this is what we're doing, you know, you're giving us all this money to justify looking after this child, but really you're not actually paying them to look after the child. You're paying them to fill out these unnecessary huge amounts of documents. They've set up all these stupid court cases, and I just think they're completely waste of time. You know, Elon Musk is doing the efficiency program or whatever, but I think that's what England needs, because there's a ton of things that's the taxpayer is paying for, that it's just stupid people who don't know what they're doing and are trying to make up excuses for why they should have a job or why they need more people to be employed. And what are you doing? You're getting them to fill out thousands of pages that aren't going to be read by the parents, aren't going to be read by the baby, aren't going to be read by anyone. They're just going to be thrown away. So all that's I don't know what is on those papers. I would like to have a look just to show people, just show the taxpayer what people are doing with these taxpayers' money. I mean, you look after a child, you feed it, you make sure the baby's safe, that there's no markings on it, that it's not being abused by the carer, and you look after the child. But paperwork is okay. You need some paperwork. You need some sort of test where you can lay out all the reasons why this person failed the test, but then you just say, okay, you failed the test, so the child is going to go into a 1-year foster care program, and you're going to get to see the child once a week, and you just need a couple of pages for that. You don't need huge amounts of everything else, and I just think the reason why you take children off people is because you don't feel that the parent really cares enough about the child. And therefore, if that is how the situation is, you don't actually need to have all these expensive big court cases. My sister was just kind of like, oh, I just wait to see what the social services say. Well, if you're just waiting to see what the social services say, why are you going into court and spending thousands of pounds, having huge amounts of documents and weeks of testing for all the different people who want to get involved just to fail them? And then to do all that knowing that my sister's just like, well, I'll let the social worker side. So she doesn't care about the court. She doesn't care about any of that. She lost her child because she's incapable of managing documents. So giving her 1,000 documents to read, she can't even barely read a single form, let alone if you lose your child, it's because you're incompetent. If you're incompetent, giving them 1,000 documents of every single thing that you've done is just like, just complete waste of taxpayers' money. And it's, I know you need to if you're taking a child off someone, you need to justify it. The problem is the people who lose their children are people who usually don't really bother looking into why it got taken away. They just think like, okay, well, I'll just wait a year and that's fine. That's how they think. And therefore it bothered me, but I have no rights over this child. Anyway, I don't want to think about it. I've got better things to think about. It's just going to stress me out. But yeah. Once the TAP had come through, then I will go back. Life will go back to normal. Well, it hasn't really changed. A TAP doesn't make much of a difference. But anyway, what else was there? Yeah, I'm seeing tons and tons of things of Elon. I don't know why it is, but it just feels like every post that I read seems to have him in it or something, and it's kind of crazy. But yeah, I feel like though he's very, very good at blending in with his people. I don't really know who his people are, but he kind of comes off as a bit of a fool, but I feel like he's drawing the attention of people who are in a certain bracket. Trump too is very good at that. He has a different bracket though. I think his is I've had 6 lives or less. I think if you really like Trump, there's a high chance that you've had 6 or less lives. And I think if you really like Elon, I think there's a high chance that you've had 6, 7 or 8 lives. And I don't know, if you like the singers, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, because I think the singers are aimed for all sorts of, they're aimed for all sorts of people. But yeah, I don't think the new younger ones might, because they might be more, I want to stick with traditions, and I don't know, I feel like if you've had 1 or 2 lives, you might actually feel almost like you've missed the past. You didn't get to live 2,000 years ago, so wouldn't it be nice to be a Roman, or wouldn't it be nice to live in the Middle East and Middle Ages or something? But if you've had a few lives and you have lived in the Middle Ages, you'd probably be like, yeah, I don't want to live in the Middle Ages and smell and have rats crawling up my leg every now and then. I think sometimes things feel nice until you actually go through it, and once you go through it, it sounds horrible. And therefore people who kind of idolize the past are either people that were just super rich in the past and that's what they're remembering, or they're people that didn't really have that many lives in the past, and hence they kind of feel like they missed out, and hence they feel like they want to bring back the traditions because this was what they missed out on. And I guess also if you're like a pet in the Middle Ages, you might kind of idolize the sort of way of life in those places, because you would be like, well, I wanted to be a human in the Middle Ages, and then you might start having all these slight needs to want to. Analyzing psychology is very important, because if you analyze psychology, you can analyze why people are the way that they are, why they think the way they are. And I think if you can understand that, then you can kind of blend in with these people and convince people that you're like them. I feel like there is a a whole bunch of people that like talking about how they've come from another planet and how they've been birthed into this life. And I feel like I am being covered up by these. I'm being hidden by everyone. You know, I'm not. I'm Christ, but I'm not a male. I'm an alien, but I'm not grey and silky. I'm from another world. So like the star beings, but I'm not just delusional. These star beings are people that have this big imagination, and I don't want to cut or stop their imagination, but I also don't believe that they have any proof to back up what they're saying. And I do have proof to back up what I'm saying, but because I'm kind of very good at blending in, I'm probably kind of similar to I would from the surface, I'd probably seem kind of similar to those people, like, oh, I'm crazy, but I've got a good imagination, and there's nothing really wrong with that. And I think the fact that there's lots of other people starting to say that they think they're beings from another world that have been born into this life and born into this body, you know, I think because there's a lot of other people kind of copying what I believe in lots of different ways. I feel like I am able to blend in, you know. There's a lot of, I think that saying that I saw the other day, if something is unintelligent people tend to believe in it. But for me, I feel like everything seems unintelligent. You know, to believe that you are from another world and have just been born into this life without any proof or any evidence or anything to back up that statement. You know, I feel like it's unintelligent to believe this if you've got nothing to back it up. I believe it because I'm time traveling, and I'm you know, I've created all the angels and the singers, and I haven't written all these songs myself. You know, I've got them from somewhere else, and I think that I've got them from other timelines. And if I've done other timelines, then I know I've been on other planets. And because I seem very, very experienced at this, I know that I'm very, very old and have been on loads of different planets. So, you know, so I have evidence of it. The problem is, if I tell people that I have evidence and you just need to read my page, a lot of people just be like, no, not bothered, not interested, because unintelligent people don't want proof. They just want to believe. You know, here's the Bible, believe it. And yeah, I think that I don't know too much. I don't know anyone from a communist value. There was a comment that I made today about communism, and you know, I don't know that many people from communism, but I know it is a belief of equality and everyone being the same. And I feel like if you're living in a world where everyone has a similar number of lives, it's probably more easy to believe that we're all the same. But I feel like with the capitalist, you know, that you can tell there's a big difference between the smart people and the dumb people. The thing is that the dumb people don't notice it. The dumb people think the difference is that the smart people are following demons or whatever. You know, that they're coming up with crazy ideas as to why smart people are smart. And often the conclusion is that they're not smart, that they just think they're smart and that they're actually just preaching lies and they're believing the truth and really they're the ones that are stupid. But yeah, smart people can see the dumb people and then they start asking questions. Why am I, you know, more advanced than others? Why have I achieved more than others? You know, some people go on to create huge amounts of companies, and some people can't even hold down a job for a couple of months. So you've got the huge variety, and you can ask the question, why is there such a big variety? And I think the obvious answer is reincarnation, and you've been reincarnated more than that person. And if a communist country is all about equality and making people similar, then maybe you're kind of forcing people not to see these things. So it's not like they haven't, some of them might have had a lot of lives, but if you're trying to promote and preach and sort of brainwash people into believing that you're all the same, it might not be that they haven't had more lives, but it's more like they're being brainwashed into just respecting. If someone's had stupid views, their views are equally as valid as yours because you're of, you know, that mad guy actually said that young people can't be intelligent. He said that I think it was really implying that the message got deleted, so I didn't copy it, but it was almost like implying that I am not as intelligent as him because I'm younger. Really, I think what he was thinking is that I'm female and females can't be more intelligent than males. That's what he was actually thinking, but he knows he wouldn't be able to say something like that to me because I would attack him for it. And I'm pretty sure any female who would read that would attack him for it. But I felt like he thought that younger people are not intelligent, and I feel like there's a lot of people that have this view. The older you are, the wiser you are, the smarter you are, and this is why the Catholic Church seemed to have older people in their meetings, because they believe that the older you are, the wiser you are, and you need to lead the others, when it's actually not the truth, because reincarnation makes things different. But yeah, the Catholics don't know the truth. I watched that Catholic movie the other day. There was the most boringest film I have ever seen in my life. I have no idea what it's called, but it was a bunch of Catholics just trying to decide who's going to be the next pope, and that was it. That was the whole film. But I liked actually watching it though, because I was it was like these people, everything was about doing the will of God, and yet I was looking at it, a bunch of men. I ain't welcome in there. There's no women in there. I don't want to be in a room full of men. That's not. I wouldn't want to be in a room that's only full of men. I wouldn't feel welcome there. I wouldn't feel comfortable there, and the whole thing just seemed so boring. Like their lives were dull. And then I noticed there was marble all over the hotel room that they were staying in. Or it wasn't a hotel. I don't know where they were staying. Some sort of. It looked like a hotel, but just marble everywhere. And I was just like, yeah, well, I don't like marble because you might slip and crack your head. It's nice in hallways. I love marble even in kitchens as well. Kitchens and hallways are nice. I can't remember who it was, but I've seen quite a few really lovely hallways in houses, and they're full of marble, but it is very nice. But yeah, when it comes to, it's not very safe. I like carpets because I feel like if you fall over, you're not going to crack your head open. And the idea of cracking your head open, sort of becoming half alive, half dead because of brain damage, I feel like that's kind of a fear. So I don't like marble too much. But yeah, all these places were just covered in marble. Supposed to show wealth or something, but I was just like, yeah, a bunch of old guys surrounded by marble. You just need a puddle of water and you something could go wrong. But yeah, it was so like they had. It's amazing how people can want to do the will of God the whole time, and yet just me look at that, just be like, I wouldn't want to go there. That just looks so boring. So that they must have so dull personalities as well, like no character or charisma or energy even, just very, very, very boring. And they devote their life to the will of God, even though God has absolutely nothing. No, watching that film made me want to never meet the Pope. Like seriously, like if this is what your people are like, I think I'd rather just sit on like some sort of graveyard stone or something. I think watching the birds in the graveyard would be more interesting than watching those people. But yeah, it's weird how they wouldn't see it that way. Like they have absolutely no clue who God is. That they think that this is doing the will of God when I liked watching it though, because these people who knew nothing about me were having very boring lives, and it was kind of enjoyable knowing that in the future a lot of people might watch this film and they might realise, they'll know who God is, they'll know what I'm like, they'll know that I like colour and personality and women as well. I don't like just groups of guys, and the idea that women should be silent and not to speak out is just completely against everything that I believe in. But yeah, people will watch that and just be like how stupid people were in the past. Humans can look at animals that act stupidly and you just be like, oh, that's a really stupid sheep, or it's funny, it's cute, but it's stupid. But yeah, I think intelligent people in the future might look back on that film and just be like, oh my gosh, humans in the past were so but I want to make sure that in the future I want to call everyone sprites. Whoever makes it past a certain point be called a sprite, and you can insult the humans as much as you want, because we'll see humans as like the dummies and the sprites as being like the new species. But yes, what else do I want to say? I don't know. I posted quite a lot of posts today actually. But yeah, it's weird. Actually, there's something else I want to say. It's weird because my sister lost custody. Well, she lost custody of her first child to the father. So basically, had nothing to do with that child's life from the moment she walked out in after 3 months of being with that child. She waited a couple of months before making an effort to go back, and it was too late. He'd got a restraining order, and that was it. There was nothing she could do, and then she's been trying to fight for custody for 2 years. I'd only seen her for a couple of hours, so I didn't know that she wasn't good with a child. The child, when I saw her with the child, the father was with the child every minute basically, and I barely saw her, so I had no idea she wasn't capable. It was only when she had the second child and I saw her for a couple of hours and I realised, yeah, she can't do this. Definitely not alone. The father passed away during the births or during the pregnancy, so there was no way she could do it by herself. So it took me a couple of hours to realise she couldn't do it. But of course, it takes social services 6 months to realise that, even though they knew she couldn't because she lost custody of her first child. And, that it was pretty obvious. But clearly it was just about making money. But you know what? A couple of months ago, she actually got a job in a nursery. I wouldn't have said anything because I wanted to see what would happen. I didn't want to say something for people to find out and then make her get fired. But she has she has lost the job. But she worked in a nursery for 2 months, so she's lost custody of the first child. The second child got taken away by social services after a sort of expensive live-in accommodation test that lasted, I think it was supposed to be for 6 months, but it ended up being like 3 or 4 months because the baby rolled off the bed, and then they ended it at that point. And then she there was huge amounts of paperwork, them just making lots and lots of money from writing. I don't know what they've been writing, and then she got a job in a nursery working around babies and kids, and she was able to do that job for about 2 or 3 months before getting fired. That kind of just shows that this really is a money thing. Why was she able to get a job in a nursery if something's going wrong here? If you've got thousands of pages about why Sophie's a bad mum and why you need to look after the child and do all these reports, I don't know why you did all these reports. So you spent all this time doing reports, and yet someone who cannot look after children ended up getting a job in a nursery.